We are going to go ahead and get started about unlocking secure development. We'll go a little deeper on the OWASP ASVS. I'm sure most of you have heard about it. ASVS, Application Security Verification Standards. So some of the things we will cover, of course, some of the use cases, different levels of ASVS, implementation, what are the different domains we have, compliance, and a little bit other things around that. Before that, that's me, Tejpal Garhwal. I've been in this field for almost 25 years, not in security, but in last, I would say 10 to 12 years, I have been transitioned from software engineering, software development to application security. That's my forte. So that's me. Of course, this is my own research, so I'm not supporting any vendor, not talking about any vendor, anything like that. And it's also it's my views, so it can be different than anybody else's views. So what is ASVS? As we say, Application Security Verification Standards is a framework. In the past, I have used it as a framework, and that's what I kind of advocate for. Use it as a framework. So definitely it's a guide for you to think about security when you're building web applications. And of course, it's community driven. So OWASP, we all know, that's why we are here. So it's a lot of support, a lot of documentation around this. And also, it's definitely a basis. I'm a very big supporter for using ASVS. And believe it or not, most of us, even without knowing what the ASVS is, we have been using it. We have been using it. And it's definitely the requirement how you can make your application secure. But why should we use ASVS? You have to be consistent. Whatever you're doing over and over again, you have software development, it's keep happening, it's a mature process, you always do day in, day out. It will keep you very consistent on these, if you follow these pattern or different labels it has that we'll talk about in a little bit, it will really help you to keep the consistency around it. And definitely, as you, if you are in the security field or in the even the software side of it or both, there's always I would say a love-hate relationship between security and development, because we want, we means if I put myself in the security side of it, we want that our team who are developing software are making it secure, and you want to make sure that you give them enough information that this is the right way to do it. But the other side of it is, you are not writing the code, you are just telling me, so and don't stop me, don't come my way. So that was kind of a dialogue, mostly I think very common dialogue we get to hear. And I think ASVS it's kind of a glue between developer and security professional, which talk about the common language, common term that we talk about. And then definitely, it enhances the compliance and risk management. So you are comply, you are really making sure that risk is managed appropriately. So that is another way of using it that way. Now, as we talk about, there's a different labels of it. And the labels are in a way that you cannot start building or implementing certain things from day one. You have to start small and scale it up. And that's why the ASVS label really help you mature your ASVS program. So as a level 1, you can have the very basic security coverage, and it could be something like simple static website where not much critical information you have, nothing payment or anything like that, any sensitive data you might have. Level 1, you can start from there, and then you can have go to the level 2, which can have more business critical data, and it could be something like healthcare or something like finance kind of side of thing. And then the level 3, which is more about very critical infrastructure, high risk applications, so that you can think of that. So start small if you're not using it, or even though if you're using it, but the first step is to look at it and see where you stand. And we will walk this through a little bit, looking at the template that I have there share with you. And that will help us to say that where you are and where you want to be and how you want to go there. But these are kind of a label you can think of progressing, maturing your ASVS program. This is like, I thought my eyes were a little blurry, but this picture is literally blurry. And I took it from OWASP site, and I was trying to wrap my head around that, how should I interpret it? And I'm still leaning toward the pyramid than this one, but I really want to share this, this grid with you. Look at this, it says 3 labels, 1, 2, 3, applicability, building configuration, deploy assurance. And we see label 1 is saying, okay, this color acceptable, and then label 2 and 3, everything is same, and it's saying suitable. Is anybody reading the right way, the way I'm reading it? So what is the difference between label 2 and 3? I think it is maybe my personal observation. It doesn't distinguish that, because it's saying, okay, you can do SAST, you can do SAST. I think the only and that's why I put that pyramid over there. Maybe when you have high risk application, you have the level 3. And then it made me think that, okay, this picture is not interpreting what this document was trying to convey to its readers. And by the way, there's a Word document, OWASP ASVS site. So you can take a look on that one. But I think to my interpretation, start with the basic, label 2, label 3, based on the criticality of your application, follow the same protocols basically. And it's also saying that penetration testing on the level 1, meaning if your application is penetration testable, you are good to go and sign yourself off saying that you are at least have level 1. That's what it says. Anybody has any different opinion about this? No, or it's too complicated, very easy? Okay, never mind. So ASVS says that there are 14 chapters, and I think when we look at these chapters, I think every chapter name that you are going to read here is no alien word here. Everything is all of us know here. Think about architecture, authentication, session management, access, validation, cryptography, error handling, and everything above here. So when we look at this, I can say that, wait a minute, I am already doing it. What does that mean? Which label am I? What it looks like for me? And we'll go into that more deep inside. But these are the 14 chapters that OWASP ASVS recommends for us to follow. And then some of the earlier talk we had about architecture, which is like threat modeling. Think about that. They talk about threat modeling. Threat modeling is basically part of architecture. And when you come back and, oh, I cannot go back? Never mind. here. So if you see here, this architecture is missing. So if you're not doing threat modeling, that means you are at level 1, at least level 1. That's one way of interpreting. So you have to go back and forth and make sure that what your position in the ASVS is, and then start from there. So let's move forward. And then rest of it is mostly like API, configuration, communication is all part of your where we are. So and that we are going to look at it. This is one of the kind of snapshot I took, and I'm sure if some of you have look at it. This is on the OWASP ASVS website. There's multiple formats you will find, Word document, CSV file, and it says that these are the controls you have to do, and I will help you interpret it. So for an example, V1.1 secure software development lifecycle. What does that mean? And how to read this one? So essentially, if the first digit before decimal is the chapter. So like in this example, it's an architecture chapter, and then can anybody guess what is the second one is here? It's right there. Answer is right there. I want to make sure you guys just had lunch, so you are awake. You are listening to me. It's a secure software development lifecycle. That's the this is what that is. And the third one is control. So the way we interpret is then saying that under architecture, under the section SDLC, you have to follow at least these 5 control. And then if you see that, oh, you are not following any of these one, you can be L1 or nowhere. But if you want to be L2 or L3, you got to be this. And let's look at some of this. Verify the use of secure software development lifecycle that addresses security in all stages of development. It's a very simple statement, but let's see how seriously you are looking at it. How are we thinking? And it's basically come down to the same, saying that think about security. Are you thinking of security early in the process or later in the process? Are you thinking of security at every stage of the process? That's what it means. And that's why it's level 2. And why it's not in level 1? Because in level 1, suppose you are creating some static website, it's okay. You just create the WordPress page and then you just publish it and you're done. You're good. But if you are thinking a critical or supercritical applications, sensitive data, things like that, you've got to think about 1.1.1 for an example. This is the good one, and if you guys were in the earlier session, maybe this is kind of rephrase that one. Verify documentation and justification of all the applications, trust boundaries, components, and significant data flows. Does that ring any bell? What is it talking about? Okay. It's talking about threat modeling. And when you do the threat modeling, remember those guys were talking about you have to visualize it. You have to put a blueprint of the application, which is the DFD, data flow diagram. And you have to draw the trust boundaries saying what data is coming in, what is being processed, what is going out, and whether or not you are doing a good job maintaining that. That's what it's talking about. And I think I asked the question to them that how you can scale it. So it's a very simple sentence, but it has a very big impact on your threat modeling. So whether or not you're doing it, that's what it is. Anybody is doing threat modeling, by the way, in your organization, in your company? No? Okay, some of them, good, good. Yeah, it's always challenging to get into, but once you are getting threat modeling, it's really awesome. It's a good investment upfront, but it's a very high return in the long term. Another example, this is basically talking about, let's read one of them. Verify that password truncation is not performed. However, consecutive multiple spaces may be replaced by a single space. So it's talking about passwords, password, password, password. Anybody can say what this chapter could be? Authentication, very good. Yeah, it's talking about authentication. So it's basically the authentication section, and the chapter and section is about password. And these are the controls you need to have in the password. Now, as you see, it has label 1 also. So even though unless there's a purely static site and you're just showing up only one image or something, very content which are like no harmful, they are no link, nothing like that, you are good. You're not using password, you are good. But if you have anything, any sort of things, you got to think about that. So there's a few more examples. One thing, if you have noticed here, there's a CWE. Anybody want to talk about that or say what that CWE is? Yeah, exactly. So this is the good reference because this is just the template. It says that, hey, if you are doing something with the password, do these control, follow these control. But it also gives you a reference that what does those control mean. So if you go to the CWE, it will give you even more detailed information about that. So there's a cross relationship with that, and it's very useful. And when you sit with development team and have these kind of conversation, believe it or not, it gets very healthier conversation. It gets very interesting conversation because they start to see the value of it, why we are doing it, and they get excited that what it means, what we are talking about as a security professional. So that's what it means. And there's also a reference for NIST standards. So in the ASVS, there will be some NIST reference and there will not be some NIST reference. There will be CVE column all the time, but you will see that some of where the CVE is missing, CVE number is missing. Anybody can guess why there will be no CVE? CW, sorry. I was on that corner over there, so CVE is still in my CWE.
It's just no CW coverage for those.
Right, exactly. And it could be something like administrative control, for an example. And it could be, let's say, maintain the policy, for an example. That's why. So yeah, we just talked about that. So there are quite a few, as I mentioned. I'm just going kind of, so you will see it's a 71-page long document. So don't get overwhelmed with that. If you want to read the document, go with, just look at the level 1 and go through that and see what you are doing. Then go to level 2, level 3. But this is like typical structure of those documents. And you will see all the way to the 14 chapters over there. Now, let's look at some use cases. So we got it, there are multiple levels, there are multiple chapters, sections, control, and those controls are almost 278, I believe. Yes, 278 controls. So it's a big task. But when you look at it, you, as I said, you will start realizing that some of things are, you are already doing it, your developers are already doing it. It's only that either you are not documenting it or not formalize that process. So you already are winning the battle having the secure coding is just basically you just formalize it. That would be kind of my advice in simple way. But let's look at the use cases. Hello? No? It doesn't want to go? Okay. So use it as a detailed security architecture guidance. You're building a system, you're building the application, use it as a like kind of framework architecture of that solution that you are trying to build as a software application, and use this as a guidelines. Use be a kind of security checklist. I'm a developer. I was told that I want to write a safe code. What should I do? Put it on your company's wiki site or any knowledge share site and have this checklist published there. I, as a developer, I'll keep this in mind and continue to look at it, and maybe soon I will get familiar with that and I get a hang of it. So use it as that way. And then automated unit and integration test. You can put it in the CI/CD pipeline, put some compliance or put some rules, put some clauses, and that way also you can control this automated way. And again, is tied with the secure code checklist. You can also have some kind of training with your developers how to write a good secure code, right? Maybe there's one more. Agile application security testing, and I think it's very important these days, where especially when all businesses are going at a super fast pace, rocket speed phase, and they want to get software developed as fast as possible. Use it as agile application security. And anybody can suggest like how should we do it? I'm just looking for idea. I have some idea, but I want to hear from you guys. Anybody think that how this can be in the agile fashion? No?
Isn't it the same with any software? Like, if it's agile or not, you need the secure coding, you need other protections.
Right.
It's the same with any software.
Okay, no, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. So whether or not you're building software, whether slow or fast, you need to have this, right? That's the point coming out to.
Even when you're doing agile or waterfall, you're still doing the same steps. You're just doing them in different.
Right.
Instead, you're just doing this type dev test.
Yes.
Versus a long one, you still do the same thing. You just need to do micro pieces.
Micro pieces, yeah. That's another good point.
So yeah, all the points where you need to integrate security in a waterfall, integrate into the same points in complete, where you're essentially from the time you commit to code's running. So yeah, all those points exist. You just need to find where they are and integrate into them.
Very good point, actually. So I just from my experience, and I come across this point when I was trying to implement it and say how should I, like I was also struggling, like no matter you do the waterfall or agile, I need to get this thing done because my boss asked me to do that, or I want it to be get thing done. What I did it, I say put one of these epic or one of these user story in their major goal, one goal. So it automatically become part of their life cycle, like whatever they are building, it become a talk of the town at that time. So if you will hit the goal, ultimately you will achieve this. So to your point, absolutely right, means doesn't matter it's waterfall or agile or what anything else, as long as you embed it in their language, in their territory, all you have to do is make sure that you track it. So when they say definition of done, have you completed this?
So how would you scale? Let's say you have tens of different teams working on different sprints. How would you possibly scale?
That's a good question. So I think I always, in my experience or in general, the way I kind of follow the industry, always start small. Don't dump everything and make security as a big deal rather than be the partner with them, rather than dictating, be the partner, understand their pain and say that, hey, are we at level 1? Are we, if we are not L1, can we think about that? Are we using password? Say, yeah, we are using because we are collecting payments. So that's good then. So are we following these section, whatever, these 5 control? They say no, or we are following, but we don't have any formal. And that's the sweet spot for you to enter in their territory and say, okay, are you storing password encrypted or not encrypted? So start with those conversation and then bring back the conversation back to those control. And another way, a good way of doing it is that if there are so many teams, as a good example, actually giving a good reference. If you have 10 different teams, you will definitely always find that some people are always in favor of security. They love security. Some people hate security. Go to them, those who love security, and use them as a use case, saying, hey, those guys are using those, out of 5, they are using 3 control, and highlight the showcase that their strength. And that's how it will build the momentum. Does that answer your question? Okay. And then framework, the procurement of secure software. You can also use it as a framework if you're acquiring or procuring any software. You can always ask them, are you guys doing this? Because you are taking a third-party software or vendor from whatever, either solution or whatnot, but this is a good reference to look at. That this can be part of that. Okay. So how we are going to implement it, right? So we understood there is a L1, L2, L3, 278 control, whatnot. We just talked about that. How we're going to implement it. First, you see where your gaps are, and we just talked about that. We have been talking the same thing. It's just the different way of saying it. You will, as I just gave the example about the password. Some people are doing, some people are not doing. Out of 5 control, maybe 2% are doing it, and rest of the people are not doing it. Have that analysis. Make sure that where the gaps are, and try to fill the gaps first. That will be a big winner for you, victory for you, because you can start highlighting that we have completed L1, L2, or L3, whatever that may be, but you can start doing that. And then you can integrate into the SDLC. We just talked about that also. And then automate it in the CI/CD if possible. Everybody's development environment is different, but see if that can be automated, because it will help you to scale faster. And then to the last point, you have to keep track of it. You cannot toss it on the other side of fence and saying, okay, we are done, my work is done, it's not going to happen. Because people are going to forget it, everything will change, and whether or not they are doing the right thing, you will get lost in the whole process. So make sure you have continuous look on that. Make sure is continuously validating it. And then some of the challenges, because nothing comes easy. Scope and complexity. On a surface, it looks very complex. If I just say I have to implement 278 control, and if you go to maybe your CISO or whoever, or the VP engineering or chief product officer saying, hey, we have to do ASVS, and there are 278 control, 3 level, we are at L1, we need to go to L3, I want to get this done, I need your support, and he is going to yell at you and get out of my office, because it looks very complex, but the approach can be different. You can first, the earlier slide as I mentioned, find the gap, find the early wins, and then start from there. Okay, sometimes it's tricky. And of course, it needs some resources, and it also need expertise. If you do not yourself do not have the expertise or knowledge what you're talking about, it's not going to work. And you alone cannot do it. You need to have people to make it work. And there will be challenges that you have some legacy systems, third-party systems, and it can become a little tricky over there. And then measurement and continuous compliance can be challenging, but we'll talk about that in a little bit, how we can overcome about that. And of course, this is the, I think I should put this one in the first place, but this is very obvious for, nobody's wrong, but this is the resistance you will sometimes you feel. How we are going to mitigate them? As I said, start small and gradually increase the maturity. Start whatever we have, and I can guarantee you no organization, or at least people here in their organization, nobody will be in the level 0. Everybody will be having some level, at least L1 with the sporadic coverage, but they will be on L1. Okay. Automated tools, SAS, DAS, SA covered some ASVS checks. Anybody using any of these tools? SAS, TS, SCA? Yeah, it covers. I think these 3 tools, these are like, it has been used for a long time. And it has, these tools help you write the policies and say, when you scan my code, follow this pattern or do for these checks. Say suppose I can use any SAS tool, I am not going to name any tool name here, but in most of the tools you can have the policy saying I have written this application for, let's say, payment collection or whatever, e-commerce, and is going to collect the payment. That means it's going to have a PCI compliance obligation. That means when you scan my code, consider these rules, and these tools are good enough to give you, doesn't matter false positive or true positive, but they will give you result based on the policies you will set. And the result of that scan will be ASVS checks basically, because their logic or the scans are ultimately running, checking the ASVS, most of it. As we talk about that, really partner with your developers, train them, do lunch and learn or official training, whatnot, send them to OWASP conference. That's the way they will learn it, they will understand the importance of it. And then put it in the CI/CD pipeline. That will become kind of a, it will flow in the blood for development blood basically. And then have the mapping, because no matter what software we write, it has some compliance obligations, some industry standard framework that most of the companies want to comply with. In this case, NIST, or sometime, let's say SOC 2 audit say that you got to store the information, the password, encrypted information in the database, in transit, in use, whatnot. It's a very common, but it goes across all the compliance. You can leverage that one also. All right, what I did is, and this is where I spent some time, and honestly I took some help from AI to help me to see how it's going to play out. And what I did is I asked him And so full disclaimer, I have not validated the information, but it looks true to me. What I did is I asked them, hey, these are the 14 controls I have. Help me to map these controls with PCI and 853 control. And why I did it, because there's maximum sites, those are kind of PCI compliance, because there's always money involved. And 53 I use it because of the, like, the defense or the government sites, they follow those ones. And if you see the commonality, you will see commonality everywhere actually. Architecture design and threat modeling, and PCI also says that, and 53 also says that. Output encoding, injection prevention, they also talk about that. So as you can see, access control, all this says that. For an example, PCI says give access to only those are in need for the access, and don't give access to everybody. So like in 850 is a least privilege thing. And then I think a little more. Can we go back? Yeah. So other 8 which I pull, and let's say talk about API security, file upload. These are all like very obvious, very known, I would say, the checks that you have, that you can really map it and see how it is. So this picture, I think this is the first thing I kind of, last night I made these changes, and that's where I should talk about this one, because this is a very important piece of it, because most of the companies don't really talk about ASVS, but they talk about 853 or ISO 27001 or SOC 2 or whatnot, but if you will see the commonality. Another thing which I want to kind of mention, when you have this checklist, and if you're a security guy or developer, and sometime your audit guys, company audit guys comes or send an email, hey, are we doing this thing? Are we doing the least privilege? You don't have to ask anybody. You already have the answer. So it makes life very easier for you also, and make you happy that, oh, you are complying. I did not know that we are complying with the least privilege thing. So this is I believe that this was the interesting mapping I found yesterday. Now, I didn't want to walk out without talking AI, so I put this slide here. But AI really, there is not reference of AI as of this point in ASVS. But I found this one, and we can talk about, anybody has any idea, we can look at it, where we can leverage AI for ASVS. Code analysis is talk about that. So you can have the automatically code check against those control, and you can have the finding based on the L1, L2, L3. So I think those are very practical scenarios, like in the first bullet points. The second bullet point, threat modeling, we talk about it. Can anybody help me? How AI is going to help me to say, am I doing the right threat modeling? Because threat modeling is very subjective, it becomes very subjective and very different, right? Because you have to follow some documentation, you have to write some DFD, so you have to have some diagram, you have to write, literally type things and make a document. So threat modeling is a document ultimately. So how AI is going to help you? I'm just asking a question. If not, then I have some, yeah, please.
Stuff we do is I provide a list of what are the components that we're using. We have a data set that we provide in part of the code and say, pull from this like a RAG model. And if in there, say, okay, if you're using this, these are potential, and what we offer as potentials, they would pick out as these are potential taxes,
Yeah.
potential assets, and potential threats, and maybe some mitigations. Again. So if we have a data set, which we have to do,
Yeah.
we can just say, here are components or portions of my system. Unfortunately, we not to the point where we can just put a diagram in, that would be nice. But at least it gives you a really good starting point for our devs because they don't have the expertise to do this easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
There are already tools like.
Did we meet on the Friday on the domain tool meeting? No. Okay. Please go ahead.
There's a tool called Stride GPT. So Stride framework for threat modeling. They built this GPT app essentially.
Yeah.
That works with, OpenAI or any other LLM out there, but you can also run it against a local LLM. So it does threat modeling for you. If you have never done threat modeling for your ecosystem, you can just build a local LLM system where you put your code in there and it tells you what your baseline looks like.
Right.
Of course, how much you trust is up to you, right?
Yeah.
And you can kind of keep iterating over it and see whether you find something different after the next code deployment versus the previous one. But it exists and it's already usable, so
Perfect.
it kind of like plays into the whole ASVS ecosystem too.
Great. Yeah, and I think the point. No, that's great point, and I think I will try it out. There are two more tools that I did not mention because we are friends here, so I'm going to tell you. It's an iris risk, if anybody heard about it, and then another one is Tejpal. Those are the two which I used it in the past, and they sound very promising. At least less paperwork and more real work, kind of thing. And Restall tool is little document. It's like resource intensive. But I think the point number 2 here about threat modeling is talking about the way I'm interpreting this one is that if I have a certain template, how I'm documenting my threat modeling and using AI saying, hey, natural language processing, go read my document and give me the pattern. And it will say that, okay, these are the trust boundaries you have in this document, but you close this gap or that gap is still open, that means there's a threat. Something like that, that's how I'm interpreting, but something to consider. And AI-driven vulnerability detection, so logic flaw, which SAS, DAS or any other tool can miss, you can have it. And then definitely, based on the findings, you can prioritize, you can use AI to prioritize that. Let's see what. So these are the two references I've used. So if you have not gone there, I made your life easier with this thing, or this thing is called QR, and it's not vulnerable, so you can scan it. But this is the standard which will take you to OWASP site, and the other one is the one which my friend Michael is going to help us to navigate through. And Michael, can you? So this is the right tool, and there was a question how you can measure the success of ASVS, and how you can say that how far you have gone. And this, at one point, I was trying to create this one, and then I found this same thing. So I said, okay, this is good. It says that out of all 14 category, how many is applicable to you and how far you are, how much percentage of each level you are at, and it also gives some reference. So I think it's a very awesome template that we can just take it and use it. So Mike, I think there's a graph also on top, so if you could scroll up, please. Keep going up, yeah. No, it's not going. Okay, never mind, that's okay, that's okay. Actually, the up top here, there's a graph. So basically, that is all those chapters, it's saying how much progress you've made. So it's a bar graph essentially. It gives a good visual, good metrics for that. But it's pretty good. I believe that this is really good start if you have not started this. it's a very good starting point for you to look at and start implementing it. Let's go in one of those ones. So let's go to the architecture one. And as you can see, the good thing about that guy is done is that it says, okay, these are the item I have, CWE. So it made very easy. Whether or not, let's say for an example, 1.2.3, whatever the control is, and if I have more detail, I just click on this one, and it will directly take me to CWE site and give you more detail. And all you have to come back and say, yes, we are following it or not following it, give 0 or 1, whatnot, and that way it will show you on your main dashboard. And let's go to the session management, Michael, please. So session management, as you can see, it has 1 and 2, and again the same reference. So it has all the worksheet around it for all 14 things, and then you can just follow along with this one and really scale it up, and at the same time it will make your life easier. If you have executive reporting, senior management reporting, show the first ASVS status and tell them that how far you have gone. So that's the one thing. So Mike, if you can please flip back to PowerPoint. I think we are done. So next one is, I think, that's all I have. So thank you very much. Any questions you guys have or anything you want to talk? That's good, I think. Thank you for listening.